Hello, Steve Dotto here, and I want to welcome you to my new webinar, 7 Powerhouse Productivity Apps that are all free. Here are our rules for the day. First of all, each of the apps that I'm showing you today has to indeed be free, and I'm going to be showing you the free version of all of them. Now, one caveat, some of them I use myself and I have upgraded to the paid version of them, but all of the features that I'm going to show you today are available in the free version as well. And they are all tools that I use myself every single day. So I think that these are kind of the best 7 free productivity powerhouse apps that you can find. You might disagree with my list, in which case, yay, tell me which ones you think are better, which tools you like better, and it'll help me for my next time I do a list, and maybe it'll be the 9 best productivity apps, because you might have some that I haven't thought of. So I appreciate your feedback. Now, as far as the webinar itself goes, this is mostly live. This part that I'm doing right now, this I record. The reason I pre-record it is so that I can make sure I get all of the content in. It's tough to do demos in a live environment, to be honest with you, so I want to make sure my demos are pretty good. I also overcome lots of technical hurdles by pre-recording, uploading, and that way we're streaming it out as opposed to having the whole upload challenge. We've all taken webinars with the host struggling for 15 minutes to get things working. That's not fun, I can promise you that. But I am live in the chat room, so that's actually me there chatting with you right now. So I'm certainly happy to discuss things, share ideas, take criticism, exchange jokes. I'm here to chat with you through the entire webinar as well. Now, at the very end of the webinar, if you're wondering, yes, I will indeed be telling you about a course that I'm starting in December. If you're interested, stick around for that to have a listen to it. I'm going to be talking about my Discover Massive Productivity course, which starts in December. But that is the last 5 minutes of the webinar. It only takes 5 minutes for me to tell you about the course. So all of the rest of it, starting right now, is going to be outstanding free content. So, what's the first app? Actually, what's the 7th? My favorite productivity app? I'm glad you asked. Number 7 on my list of free productivity apps that I rely on each and every day is Doodle. I consider calendars and setting up appointments and meetings to be a royal pain in the derriere. The emails that go back and forth with people trying to figure out a time for a meeting or for an interview or for a quick call, I often say that more time is wasted organizing a meeting than in actual meetings themselves, and I hate the process. Now, there's a variety of different tools that you can use that can help automate the process. Now, if you're lucky enough to work in a corporate environment where you have an Exchange server and you can share each other's Outlook calendars, that's great. That's a great way for you to organize time, organize meetings by looking at each other's calendars, pre-booking times with other people, etc. That works well. But more often than not, somebody within your meeting is not within your enterprise, so they're not part of your Exchange server. This is where the challenge starts to come forward. And when you have multiple people from multiple companies that you're trying to put together in a single meeting, it can be almost insurmountable, the challenges relating to getting people together, like herding cats. Enter Doodle. Now, Doodle in its free version, and it's got a premium version which you can purchase as well. It has some extra capabilities, but even in its free version, it does 2 things that are very useful for us. The first is it allows us to create something called polls, which I will show you in a minute, and the second is it has this Meet Me request area, which basically publishes your schedule and allows people to book time against your schedule and request meeting time with you. So I'm going to dive quickly into both of these. The first is polls. And now, you've probably participated in a Doodle poll without actually realizing it. Polls are that ability, are ideal if you've got a small group of people that you're trying to find a common time to get together. Do you know where it really works well? It works great with 4 of your old college friends that you're trying to get together for lunch. Have you ever started that email string? Hey, we should get together for lunch before Christmas. Wouldn't that be great? And then the email starts. Well, what about Thursday the 16th? No, Thursday the 16th doesn't work for me because I have a dentist appointment. And people tell you what they've got. I've got a dentist appointment. I've got this. I've got that. And they work their way through. And all of a sudden, what started out as let's have lunch is now a thread of email that is returned to your inbox 15, 16, 30 times that you've had to read. It's gotten off track. And you don't know what you've decided. And it's just an exercise in frustration, is it not? Enter the Doodle poll. Here's what you do. It works just fantastic. Let's schedule an event. So what you do is you say, I want to have an event. I want to have lunch with my buddies. So you create a schedule for an event and you invite people to it. So one person starts the poll. And the poll is going to be lunch with buddies. Now this could just as easily be business related at a very nice place. And there we go. So we've got it. I have to put it in a place. Let's put down Boston Pizza. Maybe Boston Pizza will sponsor this. It's Boston Pizza on Front Street in Toronto. That's a nice Boston Pizza. There we go. So you have a description. We're going to meet at Boston Pizza. Yes, we are indeed a classy group of guys. So here's my name, my email address, and we go on to the next phase, which is I am going to be sending out to my friends, the invitees on this, a time and a date. Oh, but look. Doodle has synced in my Doodle account. I synced it to my own personal calendar. So look, it knows that I've got meetings in these times here. So these days are not going to work for me. So I can now paint in, I can say, well, you know what, Wednesday works and Friday works. And then the following week, let's see, what have I got scheduled the following week? It now loads my calendar. And I'm in Kelowna on Wednesday. So let's go for Thursday. So I'm going to send out these 3 invitations for lunch. So those are the times. And look, it recognizes all the different calendars that I have. I've got it synced to my Google Calendar, so it looks at all those calendars. And then it goes through and it asks me what type of a poll I want to have. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you can have, if need be and some other different options. We're not going to worry about that right now. But here you type in the name of all of the different people who you want to participate in this poll and who you want to invite to lunch. So you'd put your 4 recipients in, they would get this email message, and then they would be asked to reply. Now the cool thing is, if we, let me just cancel back out of that and go back into my dashboard because I'm not actually going to send this. So once you've done that, and I've got one that I sent out a little while ago that is the same kind of demo. You can tell that I use it more for demos than anything. But let's take a look. Here I've got one that I sent out, which is the exact same kind of question. And this is the response that comes back. One person, in this case me, responded saying, of these available times, this is the time that I'm available. And so you can basically then count exactly who's available for what event, allow the majority to rule, then you entrench this all in their calendars, and then they're sent an email, a calendar invite to participate in that, to participate in whatever that meeting happens to be. So it does it through a polling nature as opposed to a dialogue of emails going back and forth and having everybody agree. Once everybody's checked off when they're available, you can then go in, you can say, this is the day we're going to have it. It sends an email invite back out to everybody, and they know that's the time. And so for you, it's a single email that goes out. It takes a little more preparation than just the first quick email because you have to set up the poll. But once it's done, even with 25 or 30 people, you're very quickly going to be able to have a sense of when the majority is available and to be able to book the event. The polls work spectacularly. That's where most of us kind of have an introduction to Doodle. Now, depending on how you run your own personal business, the Meet Me requests may or may not work for you. Now, if you're the sort of person that has a lot of small meetings, a lot of quick meetings, and you're often juggling those meetings, then the Meet Me request concept might work well for you. So what happens here is in your account, let me just go into my account and I will show you. I'm going to manage my Doodle account. In your account, you sync your Doodle calendar to your Doodle account to your calendars. Now, in the premium service, you can connect it to iCloud, but you can connect it to your Exchange calendar, to iCal, to Outlook, to just an ICS feed, which would connect you to like a Yahoo calendar, for instance, would probably work there. In my case, I've got it connected to my Google calendar. And when I click on that, what happened is it asked me for permission to connect it to my calendar. Once I allowed access to my calendar, it went into my Google account that I was already signed into, looked at that, and it came back saying, oh, okay, which of your calendars do you want me to sync to? And in this case, it's mine, but I've got all of these other shared calendars that I use for different places. So once I've synced that calendar, or should I actually say synced that account, then I can go into my Doodle account here, and I can ask it, my Meet Me page, into my Meet Me page, click there for it to show the availability based on the calendars that it's now synced to. I save that. And so now when people go to my Meet Me page, which is a URL that I can embed in my email, and that's the URL right there, so I can share that with people. I say, oh, if you want to book a meeting with me, take a look at my calendar and pick a time. Now, what you have to do when you do this is I've just got real appointments right now in my calendar, but you see They don't know what I'm booked to do, but it's just got Steve is busy, Steve is busy. So what you want to do is you want to block off any areas that you don't want to have meetings and say just put a hold on them. But then it will have available areas where somebody can go in and they can highlight an area and they can request a meeting with you. It doesn't entrench the meeting with you. You have to reply and say, yes, that meeting works, or yes, or no, it doesn't. But they send a meeting request through to you by looking at your availability in your calendar. This way you eliminate the back and forth of all of the emails going back and forth to try and figure out a time to book a meeting. They look at their calendar, they look at your calendar, they pick a time, they request a time, and then you respond. Pure, simple elegance. Free productivity app number 7 is Doodle. My number 6 favorite free productivity app easily could have been number 1. I think it is that good. It is Asana. Asana is team-based task management. Now there are dozens, maybe thousands of different to-do list managers and task managers that are available in all of the different iTunes stores and in the Google Play Store and available online. There's just so many different ways for us to do tasks, even just right within Gmail. Google has a great task manager. What makes Asana different? What makes Asana worthwhile? Why do I use Asana every single day? Because of the team aspect of Asana. Asana is not just a task list manager where we organize our tasks, which by itself it's very good at, but it allows me to share tasks, to have a shared workspace with other people so that as I'm working on different projects, we can share any related to-do lists and any related tasks with other team members. Now, here's where it gets really magic, because Asana is free for up to 25 users, which means that even if you're in a corporate environment where you use Outlook, for example, and you're going to be using the tasks within it, you often have people you're working with on projects that are not part of your corporate enterprise. Asana allows you to share with them. They don't have to have an investment in software. They don't have to pay any money. They don't have to be brought into your system. Instead, you can use Asana kind of outside of your normal infrastructure. For me, though, it is my entire to-do list infrastructure. And it's based on, I'm just going to take you on a quick tour through it. You're definitely going to want to watch. We've got on our YouTube channel, we've got some really nice detailed demos of Asana that take 10 and 15 minutes to go through. I don't have time in this particular webinar to go through all of the detail, but I'll give you the kind of 30,000 foot view. So we're basically what Asana does is it breaks stuff into different workspaces. So here's my different workspaces here. I've got my Dottotech one. I've got one for my websites, and that's where I work with my webmaster, the person that works with me on my website, and for different projects that I'm involved in. So if I say go to my website one, our website's pretty up to date, and we don't have very many to-do lists or many tasks in there. But as we were creating the new website, there was lots and lots of different tasks that we had to do and questions that I had. And so in all of these cases here, I would create a task or a to-do, and then I would assign it to Dave, whose nickname is Monkey. Don't worry, it's self-inflicted. He's chosen that nickname. But I'm able to take the tasks, assign them to Dave, and give them a due date. Look here, we can attach all sorts of different things. We can attach bullet points to the tab or subtasks to it. We can tag it. We can add attachments. It creates a digest and a dialogue of all of your tasks as you work through them. And it's got some great extensions. For example, Asana is email capable, meaning if you send email from your email address into Asana, you can assign it into tasks directly out of email. So it's got some really nice advanced features that are built in as well. But the keys that you need to know is A, it's free. B, it is feature rich. It's almost a project manager. It is so full blown as far as its capabilities are concerned. C, you can use it for free with up to 25 people, and it is fully interactive. They have iPhone apps for it. They have Android apps. It works in all of your environments, on all of your platforms. Everything is stored online, so you always are up to date as far as your tasks go. Yep, Asana is a worthy member of my top 7 list. Before we leave number 6, Asana as the number 6 free productivity tool, honorable mention in this category has to go to a tool called Trello, which if I had discovered it before Asana, I might never have actually gotten into using Asana quite as much as I have. Now, I have no issues at all. Asana is my go-to task manager. But Trello has an entirely different metaphor for dealing with teams and tasks, and I love it. If you're more visually driven and you haven't yet decided between you don't have a task manager, take a look at Trello as well as Asana as you're making your decision. Again, it's free. The difference with Trello is it deals with all of your different tasks kind of as index cards. Here we've got basically like a pin board. This is a project that I'm working on. I help out with a theater company in Vancouver, and so this is the publicity board as we're kind of preparing for the rollout of each new show, and it's tasks for different people. Now I run their website, so I have different tasks to do as far as the website goes. But the reason that I love it so much is it's this interface that allows us to kind of have these index cards that we pin to the board. It really works the way that we used to work in preparing our TV show. When we used to make our TV show, we had big corkboards all over the walls of our office, and every element in the show, every little feature, every demo, every story we did in our TV show was an index card that we'd write on. We'd write what product we were going to show and how long we expected it to be, and all sorts of different notes on it. And then we would pin that to the board, and then we would assemble our shows by moving those index cards around to finally build our product. It's a great way to assemble things like shows or stories. Trello works in almost an identical fashion. I think it's an outstanding product. Again, it's free. It's well worth considering for your task manager. Again, you can share with a huge team. You can work for free within a large team environment. Trello, even though it didn't make our list, I had to mention it because it deserves honorable mention. I don't know how I ever did without number 5 on my list of free productivity apps, and that is Dropbox. Dropbox is online file storage, which we use for so many different things now. We use it for backup and for security. We use it for file sharing. We use it for convenience. We use it for syncing our different products. I use Dropbox in so many different ways that it has become an absolute essential. Now, it does start out for free, and you get a small amount of storage space for free, a couple of gigabytes of storage space for free. And if you recommend friends to join, you get more Dropbox space. Typically speaking, although Dropbox is free, I have to have one disclaimer. I do pay for it. This is one that I actually pay for extra space in, but you can use it just fine in the free mode as well. Now, when you use Dropbox, you're going to find that it installs in several different places on your system. First of all, you can access Dropbox through a web browser. It's online file storage. It's where you store all your files online, so a web browser is a natural place to access it. But once you've installed and started working with Dropbox, you typically won't be using the website very often for accessing your files unless you're on somebody else's computer. Instead, it will install a little tool, a little utility in your menu bar, and that's where you'll go most of the time to see what's happening and to manage Dropbox. Now, I'm just going to show you a couple of the features that I use Dropbox for. There are so many, and again, check out our demos in the YouTube channel to see some better features on some better demonstrations on what Dropbox can do for you and will do for you. But let me just jump into it right now. Actually, let me just clear this appointment reminder that I have coming up in a little while. If we go into Dropbox, we see my folder right here. And these are all of the different things that I store in my Dropbox folder. I have to admit, I've been really busy lately, and my Dropbox folder is a little bit of a mess. But I use it for storing everything from transcripts. All of the transcripts for my radio show come from the person who does all of the transcripts. They're all stored there. I store graphics. I store video source files for these sorts of videos that I'm creating. I store all my website graphics, text of a book that I'm working on. I use Dropbox as my main. It's actually replaced, probably in my case, the documents folder on my computer because I want to access all of my key files, all of my key documents on every computer that I'm on. So I'm sitting here on my desktop computer right now. I want to be able to access them all, but later on when I'm working on my notebook, I want to be able to access the exact same files. So that's the number one thing that Dropbox does. It allows us to access all those files from everywhere. But it gets better. It also allows us to share files with others, especially large files, things like graphics or videos that you don't fit comfortably in an email. We can take Dropbox and we can share those files. If I go into my public folder here, I've got, I've got a nice big zip file of my uncle's birthday party pictures. So if I wanted to share that and include it in an email, it's 14 and a half megabytes, a little bit large to send by email. But watch what we do. If I right click my mouse on it, I can do something called copy a public link. What does that do for me? Well, I copy the link here, and then if I go and I create and compose a new email, I can then paste that link in, and the person can just put this URL into their browser, and they can download the Dropbox. They can download the file directly from Dropbox. So I use this for large publicity photos. I use this for videos that we're editing back and forth. This has become I use it for my radio show, for all of our radio show archives. My producer, every radio show that we produce, he uploads to Dropbox, and that's where I use it to then upload to the podcasting site rather than sending it by email. So for sharing large files, it is absolutely essential. Dropbox has become the standard tool that I use for that 100% of the time now. One other great feature within Dropbox is the continuous backing up and archiving of key files. While it's backing up all of my normal files, my data files, I also have it set up so that every time I plug my smartphone in, it backs up all of the photos from my smartphone. And I like this better. I'm on a Mac. I like this better than using iPhoto, even though iPhoto is a place that I ultimately will move the photographs. But it takes so long for iPhoto to load every time, and then it uses up a whole bunch of system resources. I just don't like having iPhoto start every time I plug my phone in. But instead, what I've got here is I've got camera uploads, which is all of the photos that every time I plug in my phone, it automatically backs up all of the photos in it. And that is a great safety net for me as far as backing things up. Now, I don't recommend that you use Dropbox as your only backup system, but it is a good backup system for your documents. It doesn't back up your system and all those sorts of things, but it is a great backup system. It is a great kind of ancillary backup system for your data. And the last thing I want to show you is how it manages to make the same resources available on different computers. What I mean by that is I use a tool which I love. It's not in this list because it's not free. It's $40. But I use a tool called Text Expander, which is basically a little macro tool that allows me, if you watch the video that we've got on YouTube, it's an awesome app. Unfortunately, it's a Mac-only app. There are similar apps on Windows. But it allows me to create little text snippets that I just use a quick keyboard shortcut, and then it auto-fills and it auto-populates whatever that chunk of text is. And I use it an awful lot. But I've got a library. I've got basically a library of different snippets, of different little bits of text, like little links or little chunks of text that I've saved. What happens with Dropbox is I store the preferences file for Text Expander in Dropbox, and then my notebook and my desktop computers use the same keyboard shortcuts at all times. So it's a great way for me to have the same resources available on all of my computers as well. Yeah, I have to say, Dropbox is a tool that I couldn't do without. Now, there are some similar tools out there. Microsoft has their SkyDrive, which is just as capable as Dropbox. Apple has their cloud storage solution, and there are several other cloud storage solutions out there. They are all pretty much equal as far as performance goes. Dropbox was the first one that I started to work with, and it's the one that I stay with, and I have no trouble endorsing it as one of my top free productivity apps. One thing you will find, though, if you take a look at a few of the other ones, is because they're a little bit behind Dropbox in installed base, they give you a little bit more as far as free storage with their base account. So that is certainly something worth considering. Number 5, Dropbox. Social media is becoming a problem to us all in a lot of ways, I know. But one of the ways that I'm going to deal with right now is in the productivity space. And social media is such a time vampire that it is dramatically affecting our personal productivity. The fact that so many of us have to or want to spend time in so many different social media channels really affects how much we can get done in a day. I mean, if you just monitor and engage even on a minor way in the major social media channels, in Twitter, in LinkedIn, in Facebook, in Google Plus, if you're just doing those, you're spending an awful lot of time each day monitoring your brand, checking what's happening with your competition, interacting with your customers or your audience. and that time can really add up. So fortunately, we have a series of tools, a class of tools called social media dashboards. For those of you who don't know what a social media dashboard is, this is mine that you see on screen right here. It is HootSuite. What it does is it is an amalgamator that pulls together all of our different social media channels into one single place. And the way HootSuite does it is through these streams so that I can see all of my different mentions and all of my different feeds from Twitter, etc., all laid out in front of me, and it's embedded in a web browser. It's basically a platform that works within a web browser, so I can have different tabs that will allow me to see different social media assets as I go along. So this to me is a tool which really adds to your personal productivity. Now HootSuite is free for basic use, for individual use. If you're in a corporate environment where you have multiple people sharing the same account or wanting to access the same account, or you have to access lots and lots of different social media accounts, then they have a pro version. But for an instance like what I'm using right here, which is basically I'm using it to monitor my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and my Google Plus feeds, it is free. And I could add another one. I could add Facebook here. I don't like using HootSuite as much for Facebook. Facebook, I actually, because of the way that each post gets composed, I like to do that right within Facebook. And maybe at some point, Hootsuite will improve its interface with Facebook, or Facebook will make it easier to improve its interface there. And we can start to post a little more effectively from within Hootsuite. But for now, it's just these three that I use it for: Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google+. But here's the beauty of it, is I can create and compose a single post. And typically speaking, I'm speaking to my audience, and they appear in all of those different areas. So I can create one post here and type in whatever I want as far as the post goes, and I can send it to all of those social media assets, all of those channels. Just with one click, it will send to all of them. But Hootsuite does far more than that. It also allows me to schedule those posts, schedule all the different posts that I'm going to make. And by clicking here on scheduling, it allows me to predetermine exactly when a tweet or a post is going to go out. This is a huge advantage because it means that just once a day or once a week, I can sit and I can compose all of my strategic posts and then send them out at the appropriate time. This is a tool that I use every single week in order to plan all of my regular posts. And anybody who knows anything about social media will tell you one of the important things about being in social media is consistently being out there in front of your audience with your message or with good, valuable information for them. This facilitates that brilliantly. The other thing that this does really nicely for me is it allows me to also monitor all of the activity on my all of the social media activity that is talking about me or my brand. So along with distributing and publishing content within Hootsuite, just monitoring. And so here I've got my home feed, which is all my main Twitter feed and all of the different people I follow. But here, this is my narcissistic feed. This is all the times that I'm being mentioned by others within the social media streams. This is the place that my eyes immediately gravitate when I come in to Hootsuite, because I want to know what people are saying, if they're commenting, if they're asking me questions, if they're criticizing me. I want to know all of those things right away so that I can deal with them. And so having a stream that has all of my mentions is really, really useful. And we can take that same philosophy of following mentions and we can create all sorts of different custom searches. Over here we can add different streams, which allows us to search, to do research, to follow our competitors, to follow our colleagues. We can set up all sorts of different streams that will follow different types of content in multiple social media channels. So for me, managing my social media life, I rely on one tool and one tool only. I rely on Hootsuite. And fortunately, it's free, which means it makes it into number 3 on our list of my favorite free social media apps. Okay, multiple mistakes there. It's number 4 on my list of free productivity apps. There, that's better. Number 3 on my list of 7 productivity apps that are free is an awesome app. In fact, if you get nothing else out of today's webinar and you start to use this particular product, I will consider this webinar to have been a massive success, because LastPass is a tool that has both the ability to protect your privacy, protect your assets, and also improve your productivity. And that's a pretty potent trifecta if you think about it. LastPass is a password manager. It's a very secure password manager that works in a combination of online and on your computer to create encrypted passwords and user accounts so that you can log into all of the different accounts that you have to easily and efficiently, but with very secure passwords. So it's a nice combination there. Now, there's some other commercial products out there that are available that are not free. One exceptional product is called 1Password. And if you have 1Password already and you're using it, you're in good hands. You're using a great tool that does a really good job. LastPass, is very similar with a couple of big differences. And the biggest difference being it's free. It's mostly free. Using it on your computer, on your notebook, in multiple accounts, and all of your browsers is free. If you decide that you want to use it also, because you often want to access the same accounts on your mobility devices, so on your iPhone or your Android phone or your iPad, then you have to pay. And we won't be showing you those apps because this is all about free stuff. But are you sitting down? It costs $12 a year for the premium version, so it's very inexpensive. LastPass has probably the most bang for the buck of any piece of software that I've ever seen. It's a great tool if you decide to embrace it and use it. You're just more secure. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details about how the security works, but know that your username is stored separately from the password, and the password is encrypted before it goes online, and so they have to put different pieces together in order to make it all work, which adds to the level of security. But the bottom line is it saves you having to create really super good and encrypted passwords, which none of us do. I mean, if we're asked to create our own password, we always create the same password that we're using or some variation of the same password that we've used over and over again, which we know is not secure. Or if we do create a nice secure password, then we store it somewhere like in an address book or in a text file so that we can find it again when we need it, because we have no way of getting back in if we don't. And so the whole password and security issue, exposes us to problems as far as theft of our identity or our property, and B, we lose a lot of time and productivity trying to remember what account name we have, trying to remember a password. How often have you gone back to a website 6 or 7 weeks or 7 days after you used it last? Can't remember what you used as a username. So now you're into that recover password, recover username email thing that's sending it back and forth. And all of those cycles takes 5 or 8 minutes to get into the website. What a waste of time. LastPass cures all of that. So when you install LastPass, make sure that you've got like a half an hour or an hour of free time ahead of you, because the installation is not difficult, but you want to do it with a clear head. One thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to set up a super strong master password that you are going to have to remember. Now, I actually use a complete sentence, a nonsensical sentence that makes sense to me as my password. So it's very, very powerful. Now, when you install LastPass, it will install in the free version here as an extension within your browser, and you can see it here for me. Now, let me just show you a couple of the things that I want you to know about LastPass. First of all is the ability to generate secure passwords. So it does create these kind of super encrypted passwords that you can use. So when you go and whenever you go in and create a new account, LastPass will prompt you as you're going in to save the settings for you and create a password for you, which eliminates the challenge for you for coming up with the passwords, as I say, but they also then take on the responsibility of remembering that site and then allowing you to log into that site again when you return. So in the creation of the account, it protects you by creating a very super encrypted password. And then when you're going to log in, let's go to a site that I go to regularly, my podcasting account, where I store all of my files or all of my podcasts. So watch what happens when I click on login. It first of all comes up and it doesn't know who I am, but then LastPass is monitoring, saying, oh, Steve's returning here to his Podbean site. So there's my encrypted password with my account information. So it's stored all of that information. And they've got a fairly nice interface for you to manage all of your different accounts. And every once in a while, it's a good idea to go through and throw the old ones and that sort of stuff. But in at number 3, and a solid number 3 it is LastPass. The only password manager you really need, and with a kind of honorable mention to the fact you might want to step up to the paid version and spend that $12 a month, and then you have access to all of those accounts and all of those passwords on your smartphone as well as on your computer. Number 3, LastPass. Actually, just humor me for a moment. Before we leave LastPass, let me just show you how one of the ways that I use it almost every day. Quite often, I'm manually registering new users for my courses, for the different courses that I deliver. And when I send them, when I create a new account for somebody, I have to manually create a password for them. And just see here, it says password required. So this is the field where I normally where I put in a password as I'm creating a new account. I'll show you how nicely and quickly LastPass does this. If I right-click my mouse on the field, see LastPass pops up along with the ability to generate a secure password. When I select that, it then creates this super strong password. I accept it, and it automatically populates that into the fields. So it really saves a tremendous amount of time, at the same time creating a really nice level of security. Number 2 for me in my must-have productivity apps that are free actually isn't an app at all, but it's a series of extensions that one can add to Gmail, or actually to a lot of the different Google apps. It's called Google Labs, and this is a kind of a skunkworks where different authors and Google themselves create additional functionality for some of their tools. And for Gmail, it adds some great extra functionality. Let me take you in and show you how you find it. If you go into your Gmail account in your web browser, you'll find the gear icon. And the gear icon is where you have all of your settings. So if we go into the settings, you'll see that we have a list of all of the different settings relating, in this case, to Gmail. And you have similar tools, say, within Google Calendar. But looking along the list here, we have labels, inbox, all sorts of different settings. We find labs. That's what I want to show you right now. Love the labs. Now, they tell us right here, it's some crazy experimental stuff. It's all sorts of nutsy, crazy stuff. Well, actually what it is it's different features that they think you might want to use within Gmail, but they aren't willing to 100% guarantee that they're going to work all of the time or that they're quite ready for prime time. But for the most part, they tend to work quite well. Now you have to have a little bit of thick skin. You can install a lab item, and something else might break on your system. So you have to be willing to go back and uninstall it and not be too upset that something broke as a result. But they're all free, and they do a whole bunch of really cool extra things. And you can see here's the list. Now, when you actually, if you watch this video a little bit later, the list might be a little bit different than it is today because they're constantly changing and updating. And some of the labs items gets finally entrenched in the real software if it's valuable enough and enough people are using it, and if it's stable enough. But if you take a look, you can see which ones I have enabled and which ones I don't have enabled, and it's as easy as just clicking enable or disable to turn on or off these different tools. So we have canned responses here, which I'll show you a little bit of in a moment. It's one of my favorite things. It allows us to create custom responses without having to type, if your address or signatures. It works in that kind of way. Canned responses, very valuable. A Google Calendar gadget, and you just read what each one. It adds a little column a little box in the left column, and it shows you Google Calendar. Multiple inboxes, so very valuable. It means that you can access all of your email in your Gmail interface. For those of you who have Pop Mail or Outlook Mail or Exchange Mail, you can get all of that email sent to Gmail if you want to, and you can use Gmail as your email client by setting up multiple inboxes. What? Very cool indeed. It's something that I have set up. Undo send. Oh, this is great. It allows you sender's remorse. How often have you clicked on an email and just as it closes, you see that you've got the wrong name, or you've spelled something wrong, or you shouldn't have said it, or there's somebody that it's copied to that it shouldn't be copied to, and you have that moment of, damn, if only I could pull it back. Well, you can. Undo send allows you a small little grace period to have sender's remorse and to undo the send. So when you click send on a Gmail, immediately a little window pops up that says, if you want to undo this, you have a few seconds, and you can actually change the settings for how long you have, but you've got this little grace period to recall an email. That saved my bacon more times than you can imagine. Scrolling on through, you're going to find a lot of other tools. Now, there's not a lot of, is there any of the ones that I've enabled? I'm looking here. Google Voice, which should be pretty interesting. But I'm using a Mac, so the voice recognition on the Mac is spectacular. But if I wasn't in Mac, I might be trying that one out. Picasa, Pictures. I'm looking if is there any other ones. It's Preview Pane, which will allow it to look kind of like it looks in Outlook, to make your email look a little bit more like Outlook. Preview Pane. That's a nice, useful little lab. So as you go through it, you can see there's a lot of different labs and a lot of different things that you can install, play with, to extend the functionality of Gmail. Now, I promised you I was going to show you how canned responses work. So I'll just show you. So you're writing an email, and very often you have the same bit of text that you want to include in a lot of emails, basically canned responses. And if you look down here in the bottom corner, what it does is you clicked on More Options. Canned Responses installs this little tool within your Gmail Compose window that allows you to create these prepackaged little bits of text. So you create them in the Save area underneath Save. But for me, I've got I use my radio details. If you're going to be a guest on my radio show, actually, I have to click here in the subject area or in the content area. If you're going to be a guest on my radio show, I send you this, which gives you all of the details of the call-in numbers and all of those sorts of things. I don't want to have to type it out every time I invite a guest onto the radio show, so I use canned responses to auto-populate it. So it's like a signature, but a signature kind of on steroids. It's free, and it's one of the Google Labs features. So our number 2 productivity app that is free is not an app at all, but a series of functions that come from Google Labs in your settings in both Google Calendar and in Gmail. Can't believe we're already down to number 1. My number 1 favorite free productivity app is Evernote. Evernote has changed my life, and if you haven't yet played with Evernote, I really encourage you to try it. It's one app that you all need to give a try. I'm not saying you have to use Evernote. I'm saying you have to try Evernote. You have to give it a little bit of time to try and figure out how to integrate it into your system and see if it works for you, because chances are you'll figure out a way to make it work for you. Now, Evernote is a very difficult product to show because we use it in so many different ways and it kind of fits into so many different aspects of our life. So it's hard to do a comprehensive demonstration of Evernote. It's especially difficult to do a comprehensive demonstration in like the 5 or 6 minutes that I have allocated for each of my apps here. But let me show you how I use Evernote, some of the ways that it fits in my life, and it'll give you an idea maybe of some of the things that you can do with it. Now, key things to understand with Evernote is Evernote works in all of your platforms. So you've got it on your desktop computer, you've got it on your notebook, and your mobility devices. You have access to it on all of those devices. Even the free version you have access to on all of your devices. The premium version costs $45 a year, and it gives you some additional functionality as far as dealing with PDF documents and search and a little bit faster syncing, but in more storage space. But even the free version of Evernote is incredibly full-featured, so I encourage you to start with that and see how it fits in your life. Number 1, it's available on all of your platforms, meaning all of the data is stored in the cloud, and then we access it all from our different devices. Now, what types of data do you store in Evernote? I try and use Evernote for almost everything. So important emails, I move into Evernote. Important letters and correspondence, I move into Evernote. All of my invoices and bills, I try and get into Evernote, and I store them in Evernote in notebooks that are relating to the topic. Now, as far as how we file things in Evernote, you don't necessarily have to create this massive hierarchical file system because Evernote deals with very flat structure. It's based on search. So rather than having a whole series of folders or notebooks that are really detailed, instead you can kind of have broad catch-all notebooks and then find what you're looking for by the really powerful integrated search features and the tagging features. Learning to tag your information as it comes in is really important in the whole Evernote process. But those are things that we would cover more in a tutorial than in kind of an overview that I'm showing you right now. This is Evernote open as an application. Now you can access Evernote in maybe 3-4 different ways. First of all, there's an app that will install in Mac or Windows that runs, and this is the app here. This is the Evernote app. You can also access all of your Evernote content just through a web browser. And then they also have a series of plugins for Evernote that allow you to plug Evernote's functionality into a web browser, which I'll show you in a moment, or even into your operating system. Plus, there are apps on your mobility devices. There's a unique one for all of the different phones and for all of the different tablets. So there's a lot of ways to get to your Evernote content. But that's really all it is. Evernote is a window into all the little bits of digital data, little bits of data that you've stored in all sorts of different places, be it receipts, be it photos, be it little sound bites. Evernote gives us access to them. So here I've got my Evernote account opened up here, and there's a series of notes. These are my notebooks that I've got, and I don't have, as I mentioned, I don't have a great hierarchical structure. I mean, I've got quite a few notebooks because I do use Evernote for a lot, but they're fairly flat. You know, all of the Dottotech related information, all the stuff for my demos, for my newsletters, I've got it set up in that way there. So, but I seldom look for content in Evernote. If I'm working on a newsletter, seldom will I go into the Evernote and click on the newsletter notebook and open it up and try and go through that form. Instead, I typically search for everything that I'm looking for in the search field, or I look for it based on its tags. I don't bother going through the notebooks when I'm searching for things, but that's something that you'll learn as you start to use Evernote. So here is all of our different, and you can see there's all sorts of different types of data. There's images, there are web links, there's text, there's things that I've clipped out, there's a graphic that I clipped. There's all sorts of different types of data here within Evernote. Now, the most important thing as far as I'm concerned is how does all of this information get in? Because we have to get the information into Evernote in order to use it, in order for it to be useful. And I'm constantly using Evernote as the gathering place for all of my research that then I later take that information, I massage it, and then I start to share it out with my audience. So let's say I'm watching the news and I've got to follow the whole story of Rob Ford, that crazy mayor in Toronto. So if for some reason I wanted to save this particular article from the CBC News site, I could, if you're looking and gathering information, you can always highlight it and copy it and paste it. Oh, look at that. I got audio coming through. They've got obviously some video playing as well. I could clip it out by highlighting it and clip it and do that sort of stuff. Or instead, I have installed in my web browser, and installs in all web browsers, the Evernote Web Clipper, a tremendously useful utility. If I click on that, a little sidebar will pop out of the side of my browser window here that will allow me to choose to take that article and to choose the whole article. Let's take a look. Choose the whole article, which would include all of the graphics, etc. A simplified article, which strips away all of the different ads and all of the different photos and just kind of gives us a nice simple view. You can clip the full page. You can just clip the URL, and we can take any of this content, and then we can save it to our Evernote notebook, and we can store it in whatever notebook we want. That's the basis of using the Evernote Web Clipper. It's magic. It looks quite simple, but it's profound how often I use this. I use it every single day. I'm clipping something that I find interesting online into my Evernote notebook. Now, beyond just using Evernote within the web browser, Evernote also installs now in my OS. And if we take a look here at the top, I have to look for the little elephant icon, and I can actually clip almost anything that I've got within my computer screen itself. I can create a little rectangle like here, a little crosshair thing, and I can clip anything that I find on my computer screen into Evernote and then save that little clipping into Evernote. So I can clip the whole screen, I can make an audio recording, or I can do a crosshair capture just like I did, which is a really quick and dirty way of getting stuff into Evernote. Of course, when we're on our mobility devices using our smartphone or other tools, we can also use our camera, or we can use our microphone on the phone to clip data into Evernote as well. So that was kind of what I wanted to show you as far as the main way that I clip content into Evernote. While I'm in Evernote, though, I want to show you some of the other ways that we can search for information, because I talked to you about searching by tags or searching for text. But Evernote also geotags all of the information, especially information that we gather when we are collecting information on our smartphones as we're traveling about. And so look here, this is a list of all of the different places that I gathered notes while I was the different locations where I've picked up and grabbed notes. I don't know why we have that person there in Denver, but at any rate, you can see most of my travel here is all in Canada. And if quite often when you've captured something, you can't remember what the name of the note was, or maybe even what the text of it is, but you remember that you did it while you were in Edmonton, or you did it while you were in Calgary or Regina. So here I can go into Calgary, click on Calgary, and see all of the different notes that I captured in my last trip to Calgary. And there's all the notes that I captured, including things like receipts that I took images of with my phone while I was in Calgary, which I can then add to my expense reports. So it gives us different ways to format the content as it comes in. Now, speaking of the smartphone, let me just call up my phone here and see if I can share the screen with you and show you what happens in Evernote on my phone as well. Oops, I got to do it slightly differently now because there's a different way of screen sharing. There it is. Should come, there's my phone. Isn't that cool? Okay, so there's Evernote, which is the exact same information that we saw on the screen, but here it is on my smartphone. And if we want to go in here, I'm just going to go in. I can say, I want to access all of my notebooks. There's my list of notebooks, just like I had within the Evernote app. If I want to go back and I want to look at individual notes, I can take a look at my notes that are in my newsletter folder right there, and I can take a look at all of my different information that is in my newsletter folder. So I've got access, regardless of where I am, to my most important information. That's really the heart of what Evernote is all about. I hope I did a decent job of explaining Evernote to you. It's the one product that I kind of stress with as far as explaining to people, because it does so many things for me that it's really difficult to kind of just hone in on one benefit or two benefits of Evernote. It sits at the heart of my productivity system. I use it in so many different ways. It is worth checking out, and it is worthy to be ranked as the #1 free productivity app. Well, that wraps up my 7 powerhouse productivity apps that are all free. Whether you agree with the list or disagree with the list, you have to admit those are tools that can make you more productive. Now, if you disagree with my list, great, because I want you to write me and tell me what tools you think should be included in the list. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say. And if you agree with me, write me as well, because I want you to tell me how great the whole workshop was as well.